Welcome back to a brutal Europa playthrough. This is episode 19. And it's been, I think, about 9 days since my last video, and had some real life stuff going on, and nothing bad. But now I'll get back into the Stationeers thing, so expect a bunch of videos coming out. Alright, so one of the issues I had, we'll say one of the issues with Europa right now is I'm spending too much time effing around with ores, processing ore. And I did a nice download video, which I'll link in this description, of how to automate a chain of arc furnaces to automatically both degas and smelt basic ores. And it will drop the results into the base. And that's what the focus of this episode is, to set that up and to demonstrate it being used, to try to save a lot of time. And in future videos, this is something I would probably set up much earlier. So what I'm doing here, I want to get rid of this airlock. So I went outside to make sure the door was closed. I'm just going to finish that off with a wall there. That'll give me a little more interior room when I set up the arc furnaces. And speaking of arc furnaces, I don't think they get enough usage. And I'm very guilty of this. Effectively, use it to get just the initial smelting, build a furnace, and after that, just using a furnace. And the two downsides of an arc furnace is, one, they require power. That's a issue that's pretty easy to solve and solve quickly depending on the planet. And the second problem, it takes time. Well, if you can automate it, you can make time go away, because while it's processing, you can do other things. So effectively, that time penalty becomes zero, and with a decent power infrastructure, the power issue becomes zero. Thus, you have arc furnaces that are useful for all planets and smelt everything. You're not effing around with gases or this or that. And I think it's a pretty simple scenario. And I think I have full 6 arc furnaces I'll set up in this episode for that array. And if my voice is a little more scratchy than normal, because I'm recovering from a cold, a minor cold, fortunately. But make my voice even worse than it normally is. So the arc furnaces have another aspect besides smelting, is that the gas. So if you take some coal, throw it into an arc furnace, and fire it up, it comes out very quickly and releases and fully degasses that coal. Now that gas goes someplace, and as all this various ore is smelted, or in some cases of cobalt and coal will just be degassed, that gas is ventilated. So currently I have it sitting outside and just vents outside, and I just ignore the gas. I don't collect it all. The gas is, depending on what you're mucking with, like coal comes out around 200 Celsius, because it does heat up a bit. I believe some of the other gases, when they vent, they have different temperatures. They come out venting. There was a comment that on Vulcan, this is problematic because if you smelt anything that's combustible, it generates gas that's combustible with the volatiles, you'll have fire coming out around your arc furnaces, and that can burn cabling. My old furnace here. Make sure it's warm enough to get rid of this filter. And that's the problem with that, is you just have to wrap it with a shell with some frames. And I had a video for doing an exhaust vent system, and you can either collect the gas and process it, or just vent all the gas that gets generated out somewhere else, away from the arc furnaces, to keep it from damaging the equipment. So if you're in an environment where the off-gassing will set things on fire, then you need to have some system to vent it away. And I said I did have a coating video on at least the sensor vent part of the equation. Just have to wrap it and set that up. Now, if you use a centrifuge, that will also degas mined ore. And the temperature of that is, depending, it's around 0 Celsius. Unfortunately, centrifuges are slow, and they do consume a little bit of power. And there's also a video on coating that, having 6 of them set up as an array to speed up that processing. And once again, depending on how often you mine, you can pretty much keep up with in your mining trips. Now, for a planet like Venus, using centrifuges to degas mine ore gives you a source of cool gas, which is an interesting technique. It does take some time to set up, so you probably could set up the conventional AC system just as quickly. And what I mean by conventional AC system for Venus, that means 8 to 9 AC systems lined up, hooked up to each other, and for a cooling solution. You can also do a hybrid version where you have some ACs and the rest of it's phase change. So here's all my arc furnaces. They don't stack, unfortunately. I guess it makes sense. They're pretty big kits. Just realizing I still have my suit on. I really don't have to have it on, but I think I'm just going to zip in here and zip back out again. So didn't spend the time taking it off. And we'll need a chip to drive all that too. I think I have an extra chip floating around somewhere. So all the super alloys are at the other base, and I think I have, yep, extra one here. Perfect. I'll just steal that. And another arc furnace, another arc furnace. Oh yeah, so one of the downside of the arc furnace solution, it does require a whole bunch of chutes, and it looks kind of complicated. Like everything else, once you do it, it's simple, but when you first look at it, you go, oh my god, look, what is 100 chutes I use, something like that. I haven't automated this door yet. See out here, I'm venting some of that gas out. So I did it purposely. I didn't. I'm trying to get the pressure down a little bit in that room, keep it under 100. Now, there's various ways to solve that problem. I'm just putting it off right now. I could put a simple back pressure regulator in there and just vent the excess gas outside, since, you know, O2 is not really a problem. Complicated ways to solve the problem, like everything else. Now, for those of you who watch my arc furnace coating video, this area will look strangely familiar because I've actually recorded this like a while ago, just haven't got the voiceover. And so what I did is I just used the end of this scenario for the video on coding, because by the end of this video, I have everything set up. So instead of creating a new world and building it all out and then using that for demonstration, I figured I'd just use the end of this scenario since I had it running to show. Now, I'm running this at kind of normal speed. So for those people who want to understand exactly how I constructed it, and I do make some little get tight in here. So these, I don't have a lot of room right here. I'm just really squeezing into the wall. You could bring this out a little further. It would make it easier. I'm just compacting it, but I said if I went out one more frame, this would be a lot easier to construct. I think this is on 5 frames. So right, so you have array of arc furnaces, the outputs in the back, the inputs in the front. I put them as close as they can put them. The last one has a what's it called? Call that angle corner shoot. There it is. And now here we have to do a junction, I think it's called. And getting these positioned is kind of a pain. Now, if you look under the little tooltip, it tells you what keys to use to rotate it around. And you kind of play with that and get the rotation the way you want to. And once you rotate it in a certain position, when you use it again, it should maintain that position. And in this case, what I probably should have done is put out all the arc furnaces. And once I get these complex pieces in, figured out what direction, and then just lay each one out. And I'm counting out. I should go. I'm not sure why it's not. I guess I can't just put them in free air. Maybe straight. And I'm out of chutes. Now I'm sort of figuring this out as I go along. If I do this the second time, I think it can go a lot faster. And this wire has to go here. It's in the way, so I got to recable this power a little bit. Alright, I'm going to speed up ripping the cable out since that's not that interesting. Although I will show you an issue. So I start cabling these up since I had cable in my hand. And then I came to realize something very important. Is that I can't get the cabling with those chutes installed. So I have to remove the chutes so I get the cable in there. So I would recommend laying out all 6 furnaces first. I recommend not cramming them against the wall like this. And I definitely recommend getting the power wired up. That means power and the data. There's 2 connections you gotta do here. Then put the chutes in. And that would be easier and faster than what I did here. Battery fast. There you go. You got all 6 going. So we're just gonna do cabling here. So that should be obvious enough. So let me just go a little faster. I keep falling off my little edge there. Now, the way this is set up, I could, because I have them centered on the frame there, I could put walls around this. And put a ventilation side on there if I wanted to. But being Europa, it's not going to bother. Alright, so I came back in to grab some more chutes and some other things. And we'll just zip through this a little bit. And I had to fix the wiring because I broke that, so I got to reconnect my base so I have power again. I can print stuff. And we're going to put this on a transformer. Now you don't have to put all 6 arc furnaces in. You can put in 1 or 2. Even 1 arc furnace running automatically would be a time saver, especially very early on when you're not necessarily mining that much, or the delay is not that big of a deal. All right, so here I'm setting up, getting the junction in the right position. This is the right way to do it, well, in my opinion. Now I have the junction set. Now I just zap each one. So when you do long, arrays of these things, once you get something in the right position, then at least for me, I typically did put them all in, and then we'll finish the back up here. Okay, so all the outputs go flowing all the way down. Keep going. 6 might... Actually, I think 6 isn't overkill for what I'm doing here. I don't... You gotta mine quite a bit to keep... Because what you have to do is that... Figure out is that you go on a mining trip and you mine a bunch of stuff. You toss it into the hopper. And then it's processing. And then at some point you go into another mining trip. As long as it's caught up by the time you come back on that second mining trip, you're golden. And in this case, 6 and more than handle my volume of mining. And so I probably could have got away with maybe even 2 would have been sufficient. So I went for all 6 just to, but I think in the future I'm going to go with the 4. I think I'll do a separate coating video on that. Basically, by having 4 arc furnaces, then I can have 2 of the data ports set up for a sensor and the vent. And so I can then have the 4 arc furnaces with the built-in ventilation system. And that's it. For Europa, you wouldn't need that. The Moon, you wouldn't need that. But I think for Vulcan, Vulcan's the only real planet you would need that for. Now, I connected my data and power lines together. I typically do that. I'm not sure if I've ever... I do it very rarely. I think I did on the power on the to the right, that power system. I actually have a separate data cable for the solar trackers, which I have not set up the track yet. They're just sitting there still. And since I had the transformers, I figured I'd go ahead. What I'm doing here, I'm concerned about the power draw for all those arc furnaces in the base. So I'm going to address this issue now. I'm just guessing 4,000 sounds like a nice number. Put 4,000 there. Put heavy cables to my big battery, and then so I need to replace all that cable with some heavy cable. There, now it's all isolated on its own. And clean up some of this junk over here. Now in the next video, I will replace... I don't know why that didn't smelt. Maybe it wasn't hot enough. So I get rid of that. I really, 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 really wish they had a trash can. Something you just take whatever you have, goes in there, and it's gone. Whether it's ore or stuff or whatever it may be. You just throw it. It goes in there, chute enabled, and, it's gone. That would make things so much easier. And recycling is not really an issue because you recycle it and you get, I don't know if you can recycle an old filter. The recycler system, you get like reagents, different percentages, then you got to take that and sort of figure out how to smelt it out and get the ingots, and that's a little too much. You need like an advanced recycler that you run it through and just get the raw components come back out. That would be nice. Because it's so complicated. I don't think anyone. It's so easy to get ingots, and it's so painful to try to recycle old stuff. It's like, no, I don't think I've seen anyone try to do that. To literally take like old crap, run it through the recycler, get the reagent, run it to the furnace, get the ingots back out. Maybe there's some old video when somebody tried it initially. All right, so I'm gonna grab some more chutes and Need to program that chip. Get some steel sheets. Just a computer. Open it. I just take that laptop. Put a chip in it. And once again, the link to the video, which explains how this code works, will be in the description if you haven't seen that yet. And there is a code. Looks pretty. Zap. And turn that off. Put it away somewhere so I'll lose it. Gonna need a hopper too, so get this thing going. So it's kind of funny, I'm printing up steel sheets because I couldn't find any steel sheets, even though I have steel sheets sitting right there in my tool belt, which I didn't realize I had sitting there. So make sure everything's happy before I go outside and weld this up because I got tired of falling off the edge. Yeah, I could have just used my jetpack, but I'm going to need a lot more chutes, that's for sure. Okay, now I'm going to label each one of these, and the only reason I'm labeling is so when I set them up, I don't have any duplicates on the data ports. So, and as discussed in my previous video, there is a way to auto detect this, so you wouldn't have to name it. You just put 1 to N arc furnaces, and since it's an isolated network, it's pretty easy, and it searches it and finds all of them and does magic. And I know the technique because I asked on Discord is what's the technique, and they told me the technique, and I go, okay, that's pretty easy. I think there's 2 different ways of doing it. And the coding is, I don't know, not obvious. So I'm having a problem about doing coding videos that are really complicated type stuff because I'm trying to do the code and explain things. So I'll give it a shot in the future of how to do the scan. And it's more of breaking it down, the code, so it's people can look at it and go, okay, that's how that works. All right, so yeah, we're gonna need a crap more chutes here. And another battery. Yeah, probably should put a wireless in here. And wireless for my tools. I think that's been mentioned before. Okay, I'm going to do a test run here. We'll just grab some here, and so I don't have the chutes in. I will be putting chutes in here, but I just want to make sure it works. So they all should be. Now I have a sleep of 1 second. That's why they don't necessarily spawn very quickly. Because I have a sleep of 1 second and it scans through each one. You see it take about a second. Next one, next one, next one. So depending on the scan cycle, it could take up to 6 seconds for it to detect if there's something there and do something. But since the actual smelting process takes a while, I don't worry about it. All right, let's do a little mining run. I think I'm all out of iron, so we'll do a mining run. And it's a long way down. And we'll zip through and grab the iron. You know, this with a heavy mining tool, underground mining is really not that bad. You know, as long as you have a beacon. Like in my case, I don't want to put extra holes. If you don't care about extra holes, you can just pop up anywhere. But with a beacon, and yeah, and if I put a APC down there and put a nuke battery on, it probably lasts a long time with a fixed beacon. I'm using that portable one, so the next storm that hits will blow it away. So let's make another one. They're pretty cheap to make. Another things on the things to do. It's a lot of cabling all the way up. This whole episode just running cabling. All right, so since it's set up, I'm just gonna So I don't think, I don't use the other furnace in this episode. So we're just going to drop all these in and, you know, just keep kind of testing it, you know, more testing. Let that do its thing. Do a little ore sorting, wait for the next batch to go through. And we'll make this a little faster. And by that, I mean, I'm waiting for the arc furnace to process. Now, depending on what now this is iron, so it's pretty fast. You know, I was watching this video, I'm just thinking, you could do this, you know, pseudo manually. If you had 6 of these lined up with the outputs, just the outputs rigged up, and you just put ore in it, hit the button, put ore in it, hit the button, you know, without no coding, just hit the button to start them up, you know. It's sort of like an intern process of getting this thing running. And then you add the coding, and then you add the input chutes. So you can get it partly running early on. And it's not an all or nothing system. So you can leverage it. So here I'm doing it again. Just gonna, now right now it's automatic, but it wouldn't be that much more work just to hit the activate button when I drop the ore in manually. All right, so now the input chute's kind of interesting because I leverage the overflow chute. And the overflow chute, so if it goes straight through, if it can. If it can't, it makes the 90. So basically the big arrow is the normal way, the little arrow is the overflow. And, you know, these things are just not rigged right. I wish they were configured slightly different. So it makes a really weird loop-de-loop type thing. But that's just the way it goes. And that goes to there. Now, let's see. So that's it. I'm trying to get the pattern down. So this is wrong. I'm going to fix the end piece in a minute. The reason why the end is wrong, because I don't want it all backing up on the last arc furnace. Because you see there's like room for 3. And I want to keep it even. Which is probably an overkill, honestly. And so because I always said it's too fast, almost. So you could do it this way and just call it done, but I'm going to make it more complicated. So I'll have the overflow here, and I'll have it going up instead of to the right. I can figure out which way to rotate this silly thing. I'm trying all the keys right now, trying to figure out which, that's the right one. Okay. So we're going to drop in that like that. We'll take this off, and this will go off, and this will go like this. So the reason for that, if the last arc furnace is busy, instead of just blocking at the end, overflow will take a path all the way back to the first arc furnace. And that's why it's useful to see this in the video versus the other one where it's like, boom, it's all magically assembled. And like, what the F did I just do? Oh God, I apologize for those people who are waiting for this video. That sucks. Sorry about that. And I'm out of chute again, so I need to go in there and make some more chutes. Yeah, this is awful. I mean, they're not that expensive to make. You can go through a lot of iron. And you see my little pile of ingots just piling up there, all inside. That makes things definitely more convenient. Also, the other parts, since they're inside, I can do this during a storm and not worry about, you know, ingots flying around. Speaking of storms, so another good comment I had. So I use this hopper system where I load up in the hopper. If ingots if ore is stacked up in the hopper and a storm hits, that ore will take damage. And if it takes too much damage, it's gone. Now, I have a crap load of chutes here. So this system will absorb quite a bit of ore. And since I don't really do these massive ore runs, I believe in my scenario, the way I do it in this configuration, that for the most part, there won't be any ore sitting in that hopper, at least not very long. Because this will back up in the whole system. So what I got, I don't know, 20, 30 ore could be stuck in this system, which is quite a bit of ore. So I believe in my scenario, they won't be in the hopper stuff. The storm issues, it's really a moot point. And they don't get damaged, it's not like they zap away in a second. They do take damage over time, as long as it's still running. They might even survive a storm pass, I think. Maybe the second storm will do them in. So I don't think that's really a big issue, at least for me. And because I say I got a lot of chutes running here for this one. If you had like one arc furnace with a hopper in it, and you're going really slowly, then yeah, that's going to be a scenario. And for that, I mean, I could have the hopper inside the base, and have it feed in here. That would protect it from the storm, for example. Go on the base and unload it. I mean, it doesn't matter where the hopper is. The hopper itself is not airtight, but if you put it in an airtight location, then you're fine. So now I'm trying to... So I had the return piece that comes back. And I'm loading up how that's going to go into the beginning and the hopper. Okay, just like that. Because I want the hopper stuff to flow down and the stuff from the return to merge into that junction. And I'm just going to, I go, well, I'm not, don't need a window there. It doesn't hurt anything, I guess. The only hurt is a very slight overhead in processing, graphic rendering. All right, so we put that on top. Now, I did align this with the frame. So I will later on attempt to put walls around this, and it won't work because it's not aligned to the frame. But once again, in my scenario, it's not going to fill up that much. The chute system absorbs quite a bit of ore. All right, so I'm going to, I need some iron sheets for the hopper to finish that up. And I'm done with the chutes. So I printed a little too many chutes. And go ahead and hydrate. And eat another baked potato. I can't make my auto oven until I get some better alloys made up. And I don't want to do that until I get my arc furnace system made up. And then, so this really turns out, when you see me next mine run, I just drop all the ore in there and it just magically drops in there. It's like, well, I should have done this much earlier. Big time saver. Now I do have standalone versions for. So here I am trying to get the wall set up, and I go, oh crap, it's not aligned to the frame, so that's not going to work. So oh well. I figure, well, fine. I was saying, for Vulcan and Venus, I do have standalone videos on using a furnace to auto degas and rarely smelt occasionally, but at least will degas, which is a big win. I don't collect gas, I just do that. But this system will work just as well. obviously the caveat for Vulcan with the stuff burning. All right, let's get some more. Drop it in there. We need some more ore for that sucker. Fill it up. Turn that on, and what do I want? What do I want? Grab more of that. Now, this system's really not this. I'm not sure what happens when you throw ice in it. I think it just probably degasses it. I haven't tried that. What if you throw like some oxide in there? Specifically, what temperature does it come out at? I also haven't. I don't know if I tried putting oxide in a centrifuge. Now, there's easier way, doesn't technically to degas that, but I just never tried that. I think. And find my way back out. Go that way. Oops. And there's my. That's why I put that little wall there, because you pop out and it's an easier visual representation of where I'm at. So having the place, not only the beacon there, but having structures there. Paint it yellow or something. All right, now we fly over here, and I'm going to stick with my 50s only technique. At this point, really doesn't matter all that much, but I'm going to stick with that for now. Boy, this is much easier than the other way. Look at it, just drop it all in there. See, it's all getting sucked in. Everything got sucked in. There's nothing sitting in the hopper. That was so easy. We can do it again. Cue the comments of why don't they use a mining backpack or extra mining belts or any of that. Yeah. Just not my play style to have containers and containers like that. Having a bunch of mining stuff in another belt. And down we go. And pick a direction and mine away. All kinds of stuff here. I said I zip through. Look at my speed. It's bounce between 0 to 3. I think I see 3, 2, mostly 2. I think 2 is, but that's pretty fast. Got a whole bunch of cobalt, which is, I think I see silver is what I'm looking for. I'm just not finding the silver. Well, I think I got the silver, but more of that. I don't want to get too far away where I'm go back to more cobalt. I'm getting ready to make a bunch of super alloys, so getting all the fun stuff. There's some silver right there. Yeah, I knew it was all in one section. I should remember what direction I flew in. A ton of silicon. Gold. And see, it's for me, I'm filling up pretty quickly, but I just get bored, so that's, I think, one of the big reasons why I don't have the carry the extra stuff, because I can only mine for so long. By the time I fill it up, I'm like, done with this. Back up the hole, the deep shaft, that's for sure. I call that deep mining. We'll save this for now. Saving those when I'm going to make the really super hot gas. Although I don't think I really need to. I just, with volatiles and oxide, I can get up to 2100 Celsius, which is more sufficient for stellite. So, and then we'll take this stuff, toss it in there. Oh, it's so much nicer. Just toss it in there. Now you can put some ore processing and sorting stuff, so then I could just go ahead and throw all the ore in there and just sort it up and put it in groups of 50. And that's a lot more stuff required to do all that work. I think I threw some more nitrite. Yeah, I knew. This time I knew I was going to put the nitric oxide in the room. I just had it, so I figured I'd just toss it in there. Because I have the filtration system back there, filtering it out anyway, so I figured, well, why not? We'll throw a little bit in there. That's what I'm looking. So got a little bit of pollutants in there. Yeah, I know what I have is not the most efficient way of doing it, but it slowly works its way through. All right, so we're about at the end of this episode here. I'm just going to do check things out and look at that. Isn't that great? So this is the picture you saw from the other video. That's the way to do it. Just have the magic ore just flowing in. So in the next episode, I'm going to focus on hot furnaces. So I did a video on a hot furnace, but I'm going to build additional hot furnaces. So effectively get the temperature ranges, and so I'll have a dedicated hot furnace that does steel and a lot of things that just require very high temperatures. I'll do one that's for Invar. Invar has a very particular temperature range. So I'll set it up and get it to that temperature range. Basically make it hot and you throw like coal or other crap in there to get it cooled back down again. So that's not a big deal. And then now I can make Invar anything I want to by just throwing it into that furnace. So effectively there's 4 magic temperatures. You make 4 furnaces with set temperatures in them. You just have to adjust the pressure with that tank and you can smelt everything. That assumes, of course, everything is degassed before it goes in, but with my system, I can degas everything, including cobalt and coal. And then, then that makes the smelting part much easier because now you no longer, and actually at that point, I'm no longer using volatiles and oxide for the purpose of smelting. So that whole problem goes away. So that'll be in the next episode. I'm not sure I'll build all 4, but I'll get started on that. And that'll make things faster and even more efficient. Until next time, see ya.